America's First Amendment guarantees freedom of belief and freedom of the press. Our next guest sits at the nexus of both. He's here to discuss freedom of speech in the media and how changes in technology and policy are reshaping how Americans get their news and information. Troy Miller is the president and CEO of the National Religious Broadcasters Group, and he's here with us in studio. Troy, great to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, been too long. Troy, a lot to get to. You guys are doing great work at NRB. Want to get there eventually. But I think the big news, we know President Trump is threatening to sue the BBC for $1 billion. They edited his January 6th speech in such a way that made it seem like he was inciting violence. Now, I like to listen to the news on the radio on my way to work. And one story, it framed this as an attack on freedom of speech and that the BBC should stand up to President Trump on this issue. Now, you represent broadcasters, not the BBC, but broadcasters generally here in the United States. How do you see this issue?
Yeah, we do. We represent over 1,600 broadcasters here in the U.S. Look, this issue, we are a staunch defender of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, free exercise thereof, and freedom of the press because we have a number of Christian entities that produce news. But you can't distort the news. That's pretty clear, even in the FCC regulations, that you can't purposely take the news and distort it for reasons, for unobjective reasons, or to target somebody. So, look, the BBC was wrong here. I hear they apologized today. That's a good first step. But the president's right. This was defamation.
It wouldn't be the first if Trump were to win this case against the BBC, if it goes ahead. It wouldn't be the first one he's won in recent times. Are you seeing major changes broadly in the media landscape since Trump got back into power?
Well, I think the media knows that they can't push their propaganda as much as they used to, and they're going to have to report. Look, you can have opinion pieces in the news, right? You can have opinions, you can do op-eds, you can do all of those things. But again, you can't distort the news in such a way that you defame a person or that person's character. So hopefully we're going to see the mainstream media bring that ethic back up to the Walter Cronkite days where a lot of people didn't know how liberal he was because he simply reported the news. Incredible,
yeah. And we hope for that to come back again. Troy, like I mentioned, I enjoy listening to the FM radio in my car on the way to work. I connect with the people on the other side of the airwaves in a way that digital just doesn't allow me to do. But it seems like in the newer cars with the new technology, I may not be able to get FM radio anymore. Tesla, I believe in their new models, are not going to have a radio.
That's right. So it started with AM radio, and the car manufacturer said, we're going to take AM radio out. AM radio is antiquated. It's interfering with the electrical cars. And we said, no, it's really not about AM radio being antiquated or interfering. It's a very small part to take care of that. And we've said all along, this is about who's going to control the information on the dashboard of the car. It's called the connected dash. It's not about AM radio. And then certainly Tesla comes along and says, hey, now we're going to take out FM radio out of all the new models, so we won't have FM radio. So now there is no choice to get free over-the-air broadcasting in your Tesla vehicle. Well, we've seen that other manufacturers, Ford followed that, and we had a big argument with them to keep AM radio in. And now GM says we're going to take out CarPlay and we're going to take out Android Auto. That way they can control the dash. So we're fighting to say that there ought to be a choice in the car for free over-the-air broadcasting.
And obviously, because a big part of our viewership comes from broadcasting as well. Over-the-air broadcast is a big part of our viewership. Are broadcasters coming to you? They're worried about these technologies not being maintained and being unable to reach these people?
Yeah, look, Congress, when they established the initial broadcasting regulations and codes, they recognized that there was a public interest obligation there to have free over-the-air broadcasting. And so the people of all economic groups, of all racial groups, anybody could access that information. And we're seeing a real move now with everything going to this subscription service that we're going to disenfranchise and really limit a large number of society from being able to get to information simply because they can't afford it.
So then, Troy, how do you balance ensuring this happens with businesses' right to operate their businesses as they see fit?
We do balance it there, but the government's always had a regulatory role. Now, we're a very limited government entity, but you have to look at that role when the businesses really disenfranchise so many people. There is a role for the government to step in. The AM for every car bill has a 10-year sunset in it in order for the manufacturers and the AM industry to work out how that transition is going to go.
Shifting gears a little bit, Troy, we had recently Senator Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan. He came out and he said that YouTube has agreed to reinstate any channels which had been banned for sharing information about COVID or fraud during the 2020 election. This was seen as a big win. The YouTube and Facebook, they came out and they said that the previous administration had pressured them into censorship. Since Jim Jordan's announcement, are you seeing any tangible changes in how people are allowed to share their information freely on these platforms?
Well, we're hopeful that that's going to get implemented, but we haven't really seen any changes at this point. Thanks for the senator and thankful for the administration who really did end the weaponization of the government against particularly Christian content and Christian content creators. So we're happy that Pam Bondi is leading up, our Attorney General is leading up a group into that, investigating that. So we hope that goes. But there's still a lot of work. There's still algorithms out there that show a lot of bias against Christian programming, especially if you're going to talk about pro-life, pro-family, or talk about there's only two genders, male and female. You're probably going to get pushed down in the search engine or not found altogether.
So in the past, this was described as a conspiracy theory. There's no censorship of this type of content, but you're saying not only was it happening then, but even after these announcements, you're seeing examples of it still happening now.
We're still seeing it on the algorithms. We're still getting ministries reporting to us that their content is getting suppressed or they've gotten removed altogether off of the platforms.
Incredible. Troy, you guys have a very interesting and I think valuable initiative starting. You want to connect veterans back with the church again. What inspired the NRB to start this, and what positions you guys as a group of broadcasters to actually execute this well?
Well, a couple of things. First, I'm a Navy veteran myself, and so veterans are very near and dear to me. But look, we're losing 17 veterans a day to suicide, drug overdose. They have the highest rates of depression, some of the highest rates of divorce that are going on, and they feel lonely. 60% of veterans say it's very hard to integrate back into society. And so we as the church have always been the most charitable organization across the country. So we're calling on churches to reach out to veterans, to give veterans a home, a place to feel involved, to have a mission, to feel a purpose. The gospel provides all of those things for that. Plus, churches have the resources to come alongside these people. Look, the government's doing a great job of that, but we need to step up and do a job as well. So we've launched this initiative. You can go to nrb.org/veterans, and we'll help connect you to hundreds of veterans organizations across the country so you don't have to do it alone in your church.
Well, that's interesting you said it, Troy, that the government is doing a great job on it, but us, the private citizens, I think more chatter I hear recently since the government shutdown that Americans need to get back to this idea of self-reliance and doing things themselves. But finally, NRB, why NRB? What gives you guys the tools and the resources to execute this?
Well, because we have a very large voice. Our members reach 94 million households every month across the country. We have hundreds of churches that are involved with us in denominations. So we're using that voice, that large voice of ours, to help veterans across this country.
Finally, you guys represent so many broadcasters. We have the new administration has been in power, 8 months or so now, 9 months. What policies or what do you want to see happen over the next 3 years?
First of all, the FCC has done an outstanding job. Chairman Carr has really helped deregulate and take a lot of burdens off of broadcasters. We'd love to see that continue, that deregulation, to make it easier, friendlier business environment for us to do. Plus, we want to see where this as technology moves and where the public interest programming is going to fall out. There's a lot of things going on in commercial programming, but where's the nonprofit public interest programming going to have its place in this new digital streaming world?
Big question. Troy Miller with the National Religious Broadcasters. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks for having me.